Hey everybody, welcome to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. Mike Catalana along with Dan Fetes down here in Miami. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We appreciate all the support. The Bills with a tough one in many, many ways. Let's start with the Heat because you were down on the field shooting the game. What was it like out there?
Yeah, I just want to get the heat out of the way. I have a headache. And I didn't have, it was hot, unbearably hot at times. It's the hottest game I've ever shot. They said on the broadcast that it was about 120 on the field, the temperature. I thought it was more towards the 124 range, but I guess so. But I was in shorts and a t-shirt, not in shoulder pads and a helmet. Players were dropping like flies. Isaiah McKenzie got an IV during halftime. Dawson Knox said he had one before and during the game. They were doing everything they could. It just became the snowball that kind of got out of control.
Yeah, and I think it greatly impacted the offense and their continuity. I mean, you're playing with a whole new right side of the offensive line, and he ends up being your third-string center playing in the game. Mitch Morris not playing in this one. And I think it affects players mentally. I think it makes them more tired. Now, look, both teams were playing in it. We make that clear. But, by the way, the Bills are on the sunny side, and they don't live down in South Florida, but they have to deal with it. Both teams do. But you saw guys, Gabe Davis doesn't drop balls. Diggs had a few that, like, he normally comes in with. I'm not making excuses for him. I just think it's one of those things that you saw this team have the ball for so many plays. Usually, if they're doing that, they are lighting up the scoreboard.
And you go back to it, too. We always talk about how do you deal with the cold? How do you deal with the cold? We never ask the players about how do you deal with this heat. Josh said it was hard to breathe at times. And Greg Rousseau, a guy who played his college football here, said he said it was the hottest or the second hottest game. And he said the difference is in college, they played a lot of night games here. They played a lot of 4 o'clock games.
1 o'clock.
Not this 1 o'clock. He goes, it was just unbearable. So, hey, but no excuses.
Yeah.
They still had plenty of opportunities. They just didn't get it done.
All right, let's talk about the mistakes. All right, let's just start with special teams. The 2 field goals. Tyler Bass has been awesome. He's great on the road. I've watched it. I'm trying to look again. I don't know if it was a problem or he just shanked it or somebody got a hand on it. Somebody's probably right now writing a comment telling me something that they saw. It looked like he just hit it poorly. There's 3 points right there.
3 points, and that's the missed field goal. How about the field goal attempt that they never got to try at the end of the first half? We asked Josh Allen to kind of clarify, and in his words, he said that when he went to go spike the ball, he bobbled it. So you can't spike it after you bobble it. It'd be intentional grounding, it'd be a 15-yard penalty, and a loss of down, which would have, and I think it would have been a 10-second runoff too, so it would have ended the half. So he tried to make chicken soup out of chicken and threw it over to Stephon Diggs, and the play just failed.
I think he panicked a little because if you really are in that spot, he throws it over Diggs' head and out of bounds. It was almost a pick for a touchdown.
Almost.
Very close. Allen was Josh. He didn't have the scores. That's the problem, and he talked about that. But he did put the ball in harm's way a lot. You throw the ball 63 times. He threw into coverage. He made some incredible plays, but he was left with the backup line and the wide receivers maybe not being what they've been. There's a little hero ball going on out there.
You said it. I mean, we are well past this, but it was a little Houston playoff-y feel.
Yeah, not as bad. That game, he was lost, and he was flying all over, and he hadn't established himself as to who he is yet.
And in the first half, I tweeted that it was like when Happy Gilmore learned how to putt. He became unstoppable. Josh was making so many checks at the line into place. I think he had 200 and something passing yards in the first half when he still had his right side of his offensive line. He was definitely more comfortable. So it's understandable to say, like, when you have Greg Mance and Tommy Doyle and everybody else in there.
Tommy Doyle playing guard.
Never had played guard before in his life.
Yeah.
So good luck.
And look, Spencer Brown struggled, left the game with the heat, and that was hurting him. He was not playing well before that, got beat on the play for the sack and the fumble, and no Mitch Morris out there in a loud crowd. These people were into it. By the way, Bills fans show up, as they always do, but believe me, this was not even, you barely could hear the Bills fans.
This was, and like I think we were talking about it yesterday on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel, the fact of, I think I've been to this stadium more than I've been to any other road stadium. This was, the most filled it has ever been for a game, and by far the loudest. The 300s were pretty much full. There was a buzz around this one, and like I said, Bills fans showed up. no
Yeah.
question. But
It
a
was
lot of Dolphins.
it was the second biggest crowd they've had since they renovated the stadium, is
Wow.
what they announced. So, and look, they were into it, and definitely Bills fans were here. They were having fun last night. But believe me, this was a road game through and through. I thought defensively, we don't know. Well, you saw what Benford is dealing with his hand, right? He's wearing like a club. So he went in to get checked. They put him on special teams, but he didn't play defense. So Ingram is playing corner, and everybody's looking and going, that kid's out there. And I got to say, I thought the secondary did an outstanding job considering who they were playing against. That big play they got to Waddle was big, and he can beat a lot of people.
Yep.
But it wasn't like it was up and down the field and they were making plays. I thought the secondary played well.
I agree. I think the downfall of being without 4 starters and then having injuries along the way is that Leslie Frazier can't dial things up.
Yeah.
You can't necessarily be aggressive, and they really weren't getting home as much with just the 4-man rush. So you kind of were playing this vanilla defense that, for the most part, again, they had 1 real drive,
Yeah.
maybe 2 real drives, and obviously Josh's fumble set up the other one. So this wasn't on the defense, in my opinion, because they were playing with 2 hands tied behind their back and only 1 shoe on.
He did bring pressure a few times. He did with DeMar Hamlin on the one. Greg Rousseau gets the sack. And then I think it was the very next play in between, the 2 safeties. Waddle makes that play, and then they end up going in to score. And then at the end of the game, I don't know what the Dolphins were doing. Throwing that ball on 3rd down, a little screen, that could have been picked off. And they gave the Bills an opportunity. They saved them, 40 seconds?
45 seconds. I was stunned because I thought this was just another run. The Bills don't have a timeout, and then you hold for another touchdown with the Bills probably at midfield. They end up punching it into their own guy's ass, and we get a chance. And again, we asked all these players about a game like this. Is it one thing? Is it multiple things? It was multiple. If the ball bounces back out of the end zone and lands at the 5, Bills get the ball.
Yeah.
If the ball stays in for 1 more couple feet, it's a touchdown. It was a game of bounces and inches.
Yeah, and there's a way to look at that to think it hurt the Bills that they got the safety.
100%.
Now, they only needed a field goal, but they were kicking from the 20.
Yep.
And so they kicked from the 20, outstanding kick, drove Crowder back, then he got to the 25, took a little time off the clock.
Yeah.
I didn't think time was a problem. We talked to Isaiah McKenzie about getting out of bounds on that play, and he's like, I got the guy right on my arm. I knew I could beat him to the sidelines, and then Howard comes over and makes the tackle, and that ends it. I guess in hindsight, maybe McKenzie just gets down, gives himself up, and then you come up and spike the ball. There's a lot of ways to look at it and take the field goal, but there were problems there, certainly, in what they were trying to do. I look at the other thing I wanted to ask you about was seeing Hyde and Poyer down there on the sidelines. Interesting. Guys that are hurt don't always go on the road and be there with the team.
Yeah, they looked like coaches, and they looked out of place because this was the first game ever under Sean McDermott that one of them wasn't playing. So, but they were engaged. I also think it's, and I'm not going to assume, but it stinks that they can't be here in this game. And Poyer, again, a guy from Miami, this is where he lives, he loves playing here. So it was I imagine that, especially when your team is struggling and you're that guy that can't be out there because of injuries, it is brutal.
Yeah. So where do they go from here? You look at it and say, look on the plus side. They've got injuries, right? But they also have, you would think maybe next week, Mitch Morse, Ed Oliver coming back, right? You would hope Jordan Poyer is coming back. We are talking about high-level players for this team. Jordan Phillips, they missed him today. Absolutely missed him today. So not about this game. They didn't play. They lose the game. But they get those guys back. I'm not sure what they do in the secondary. I'm not sure what they do in corner.
We've been saying it for this entire offseason.
Yeah.
Do you bring in a veteran? And if they haven't now, maybe they're fine with what they go with.
Well,
but you can
because
add to it.
one more week, and then, one more week is 4 weeks in, and then Trey White is eligible. Now, we don't know how close he is to coming back. It is nice to have an all-pro corner that you know you're going to get back at some point. But I'm talking about next week in Baltimore. And Josh Allen, hopefully the hand, he said, okay, it is what it is. I don't know. Hopefully they don't hear anything about that. But this team is beaten up. This is an early stage part where you're saying it's a little bit of not panic at all, but disappointment.
No, they're frauds. I just had to just had to throw a little sarcasm in there. Like, again, and Von Miller added some perspective by saying that he remembers when they started 1-3 with Peyton Manning and everybody thought the world was over, and they won 9 straight and had the first number 1 seed in the AFC. So having, again, a guy like Von, that wisdom, the energy, the charisma, the swagger, I think will help.
Yeah. The one thing that sticks with me is another close game that they lose. And I don't know. They say it's not one thing, but, there's just little plays that don't get made offensively, it seems like. Their defense has given up plays. I shouldn't say that. When the Tampa game that they lost last year, the offense made plays. The Kansas City game, they made plays. The defense gave it up. But as a team, it's got to be it's in the back of your mind. It's close to the front of your mind. They aren't winning the close games.
And they've done it offensively. Like today, they couldn't get it done. They've lost games defensively. It's almost like that golfer that you got the putt on 18 to win a tournament, and you haven't won a tournament before, and that putt is scary. Right now, there is some monkey on their back about winning these one-score games.
Yeah, I don't make any putts, so it doesn't matter. One last thing.
I'm cramping.
And look, we've been here this whole time. Congratulations to the Dolphins. I know we have a lot of Dolphins fans. They beat the Bills. They deserved the win. They did enough. Tua fought back after whatever his issue was. I know the NFL's investigating. The Bills are better than this team. I mean, I'm saying this after a loss, but there's so many guys out. The Bills still should have won the game.
Yeah, that's. I joked around by saying that this was a no-win situation for the Dolphins before the game, and guess what? They got the win. They're in first place in the AFC East. But you didn't beat the Bills. You beat the Bills' backups.
Yeah,
to some respect.
They did beat Josh Allen, and Allen said we beat ourselves, which I kind of think they did in this one. With all the nonsense, they still had a chance to win, but they didn't get it done. So Baltimore's next. We'll see what happens. And hey, New England lost, so people are always happy about that. It's not quite what it used to be, but it's a good thing.
So
all right, Dan is going to get back to the hotel. He can take a shower, and then we're buying him Chili's for dinner, his favorite place. And we're going to have some
a gallon of
water and chips to no, that's not going to do you any good.
Help.
He might have them anyhow. All right, we'll see how it goes. That's going to do it for us. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. For Dan, I'm Mike. Thanks for watching here on Buffalo Plus.
So hot.